Alright, welcome back to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I'm going to be answering a user question, and I apologize, I'm not going to try and pronounce your lovely name, mainly because it wouldn't be so lovely if I tried to pronounce it, so I am simply going to display it here. Was asking about the speakers, and the speakers on this are incredibly tiny, or at least they look that way. They only make up a small, thin sliver of the edge of the bezel, and at first glance, you probably wouldn't actually see these speakers. Now, the comparison, of course, will ultimately be made against probably the best laptop speaker that is currently out there, and that is the line of MacBook speakers. Like, let's be fair. They do a great speaker, and that is awesome. But just for the sake of comparison, let's see how these very, very tiny speakers stack up to a much fuller speaker. So for today's test, I'm actually going to be using some tracks from the library of Alex Rowe, who is an awesome composer out of the UK that does a lot of video game themed music, and it is original. So if you are into, say, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Chrono Trigger, any of those, then I would strongly suggest that you check out some of his albums. Highly recommend, and we will be using some of those tracks to benchmark the speakers now. So to do this benchmarking with the equipment that I have available is going to be as good as I can do. I am not a sponsored channel at this time of the video being recorded. Perhaps one day I will be, but until then I have to make do with the equipment that I either have already on hand or that I can scrounge up. So we are going to be measuring with this. Doesn't that just scream a time period? So for those of you that are interested, the specs of the unit are there on the screen for you. And let's just enjoy this delightful packaging for the moment. Maybe one day we can get the better stuff. But as to the limited extent that the microphone on the camera can pick up and interpret through audio compression, blah, 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 you'll get a vague idea of the differences. Ideally, to use this, I would have it close to where the human ear would be, or at least the sound would be. And that would be to have this back near the camera. But of course, then it becomes infinitely more difficult to record. So what we are going to have to just say at this point is that this is where the science kind of disappears, because the speakers are also in two different locations on the machines anyway. We're now dealing with pseudoscience, and I'm just going to get you to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is put volume up on the speakers to 100. I'm going to set this on high. I'm going to place it on the keyboard, and we are going to start our first test track from Chrono Arc. Okay, so for the MacBook we have the volume up to maximum, we have the same track lined up, and I am going to position the sound meter a little bit closer to me to kind of get both of these channels that are upward firing, these were toward firing. So as you can see, there's a lot of variables that make the comparison a little difficult, but again, pseudoscience. So let's give it a try. All right, and we'll conduct one more test of a side-by-side of the track Destined to be Immortal, which is a nice little boss fight. All right, now the MacBook. Well, I think between the two, it's a pretty clear winner, and I'm not really surprised. The MacBook does have the louder, probably crisper sounding speakers based on the, the brief preliminary test that we've done. But again, it's not necessarily, in my mind, in this test about one machine winning. It's about that gap and whether or not you, for what you use it for, are going to be happy with this. And, concessions and sacrifices, right? So if you have any thoughts on this test or the results thereof, keep in mind there are a lot of variables that make a test like this very difficult to do, especially with the limited instruments that I do have. I would encourage you to leave those comments in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more tests and comparisons, please let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can come up with, and I shall see you later.